Your fur is red, so beautiful, like an angel in disguise. But if you meet a friendly horse, will you communicate by Morse? Morse, Morse. How will you speak to that horse? Horse, horse. What does the fox say? Cha 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 chow. Cha 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 chow. What cha 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 chow. What does the fox say? Crack cat 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 cow. Frack cat 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 cow. Brack cat 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 cow. What does the fox say? Welcome, welcome, welcome to another exciting episode of the Unrelenting Alchemist. Wanted to talk to you today about singularities. Now, we all have probably heard of a singularity in a black hole, which refers to a point of infinite density and curvature at the center of the black hole where the laws of physics, as we know them, break down. It's a theoretical prediction of general relativity that any object falling into a black hole will eventually reach this point where matter is crushed into an infinitely small space. But that's not what we're actually going to talk about today. And of course, as you know, there's a huge debate about whether singularities are actual physical entities or just mathematical limitations of our current understanding of science, quantum mechanics, gravity, that we haven't reached a certain point of understanding, so therefore we have no way to explain what we can't understand. So let's talk about the actual singularity in this context. And in this context, I want to talk to you about the singularity of technology. The concept of singularity in technology has captured the imaginations of scientists, philosophers, theologians, futurists, and even spiritual seekers. Originally born in the context of technological advancement, the singularity has expanded into a multidimensional concept. And it will have profound implications, not only for humanity and its evolution, but for artificial intelligence and our understanding of what actually consciousness really is, what divinity really is, and what even time itself is. And this video is going to trace the origin of singularity within this concept to its development over the decades, its potential resonance with spiritual and religious worldviews, and the provocative idea that could that singularity become a bridge between technology and not only our future but our past, possibly through time travel, or even serving as a divine or metaphysical event. So let's go to the origins of the term singularity. The term singularity, in its modern technological context, was first popularized by Hungarian American and mathematician as well as physicist John von Neumann in the mid 20th century. The more formal and widespread use of this term is probably credited to science fiction author and computer scientist Vernor Vinge, who used it in a 1993 essay called The Coming Technological Singularity. Vinge described a hypothetical point in the future when technological progress, especially in artificial intelligence, would accelerate so rapidly that it would become incomprehensible to human minds. This is a point in a future where we are like a mathematical singularity, a point in space-time where gravitational forces become infinite, such as the core of the black hole, beyond which the laws of physics don't even apply anymore in any known form that we as humans would ever use. And so while Vinge did not coin the term in a vacuum, he gave it clarity and public recognition. The 1965 British mathematician I.J. Good had posited a concept of an intelligence explosion where machines smarter than humans could design even smarter machines and technology. This recursive self-improvement would quickly outpace the limits of human intelligence, leading to a dramatic societal change in which we are unaware of the future because we don't even know if we will be part of what the machines envision when they reach that point of this great general intelligence. Let's talk about the 1960s and 1980s and the theoretical foundations. During the 1960s and 70s, as computing power increased and theoretical computer science advanced, thinkers like I.J. Good and Marvin Minsky began exploring artificial general intelligence. The singularity remained a very speculative possibility, nestled more in theoretical discussions and science fiction than mainstream discourse. Stanislaw Ulam, who was a colleague of von Neumann, recorded a conversation in 1958 noting von Neumann's observation of some essential singularity in the history of the race beyond which human affairs, as we know them, cannot continue. The seeds of this radical transformation were definitely and already being planted. Let's talk about the 1990s to the 2000s. So we see a lot of expansion in the area of computing. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Vernor Vinge's essay, along with rapid advances in digital technology, brought the idea of the singularity to wider audiences. In 2005, futurist and inventor Ray Kurzweil published The Singularity is Near, a landmark book arguing that the convergence of genetics, nanotechnology, and robotics would lead to a superintelligent future. Kurzweil predicted the singularity would occur around 2045, making a pivotal moment when artificial intelligence surpasses human cognitive ability. And this leads to a transformative merging of human and machine. His work brought attention to the exponential nature of technological change as seen in Moore's Law. The 2010s to the present is a ongoing mainstream debate, and there's still some scientific skepticism, but there is a wide range of viewpoints at this time period. In the 2010s, the singularity became a focal point in discussions about AI ethics, existential risk, and transhumanism. Critics such as the late Stephen Hawking and entrepreneur Elon Musk voiced concerns about unchecked artificial intelligence. Meanwhile, AI development continued with systems like IBM's Watson, OpenAI's GPT models, and Google DeepMind's AlphaFold, showcasing capabilities that were once thought distant. However, the singularity remains elusive. Despite dramatic advances in narrow AI, artificial general intelligence has not been yet achieved. Nonetheless, there are many who believe it's coming soon. And exponential progress in quantum computing, brain-machine interfaces, and digital consciousness keeps that debate very much alive. So now let's talk about the singularity and how it may connect to spirituality and the spiritual world. And so at first glance, the technological singularity would be something we think of as purely materialistic, an end product of scientific rationalism. So it doesn't seem to lend itself to being part of spirituality. Yet, when examined through the lens of mysticism, spirituality, and religious symbolism, intriguing parallels begin to emerge. Let's think about consciousness and transcendence. Religious traditions often describe transcendence, a point beyond ordinary reality where an individual unites with a higher power, becomes enlightened, or achieves salvation. In Buddhist terms, this might resemble nirvana. In Christian theology, the beatific vision. In Kabbalistic mysticism, the unification with Ein Sof, which is another way of talking about the infinite. The singularity, too, describes a radical transformation of the human condition. Once machines become more intelligent than humans, humanity may be uplifted through technological augmentation, brain implants, digital consciousness uploads, or even merging with AI. This parallels the idea of spiritual ascension. Could the singularity represent a material manifestation of the spiritual urge to transcend limitation? Just as mystics seek union with the divine, technologists seek union with the infinite potential of intelligence itself. So let's talk about the omega point. And to do that, we have to talk about Teilhard de Chardin. French Jesuit priest and paleontologist Pierre Teilhard de Chardin introduced the concept of the omega point, a future convergence of evolution, consciousness, and divinity. He envisioned humanity evolving into higher levels of awareness and unity, culminating in what could be described as a cosmic Christ force. The omega point is strikingly similar to the singularity. Both represent a teleological process moving forward towards a greater amount of complexity, integration, and potential enlightenment. Potential enlightenment. Kurzweil himself referenced this, suggesting that the singularity might be a secular version of the omega point. So what about eschatology and end times? When Abrahamic traditions, end time narratives speak of apocalyptic events followed by a new heaven and a new earth. Interestingly, some singularity theorists describe a similar discontinuity where old human paradigms dissolve and a post-human future emerges. Whether metaphorical or actually literal, the singularity could be interpreted as an end of days scenario, but not one of actual destruction, but rather of death and rebirth, akin to a spiritual resurrection. So let's talk about other occurrences of singularity in religious symbolism. We have the Tower of Babel and the limits of hubris. In the biblical story of the Tower of Babel, humanity seeks to reach the heavens using their version of technology. But really, what we mean by that is they're building technology, right? In other words, can you build this tower that soars into the heavens? And is this a cautionary tale about overreach, right? So the singularity might play into different questions, but nonetheless, they focus on the same thing. If we reach artificial superintelligence, is this another tower that can bring about confusion or even annihilation for reaching too high? This tension between divine boundaries and human ambition lies at the heart of many religious narratives, and it echoes in the debate about the singularity. And so this is a point of intersection, or even juxtaposition, if you will. The tree of knowledge and the forbidden wisdom is another theme that comes up in religious symbolism. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve's consumption of the tree of knowledge brought awareness, but also exile. The pursuit of AGI mirrors this thirst for divine wisdom, which is, are we playing God? Are we creating entities in our own image, perhaps even greater than ourselves? Will this knowledge bring liberation to humanity, or will we be exiled and somehow be brought into a dystopian future? In Gnostic traditions, knowledge or gnosis was a path to liberation. In mainstream Christianity, unbridled knowledge without humility leads to a great fall. These interpretations reveal how the singularity touches the core of human spiritual anxiety. What does it mean to try to consider oneself as godlike? Is it something we should be doing? And then how does that then lead to time travel? Because that might become a form of converging destiny. Because one of the most speculative but fascinating questions is whether the singularity could involve or enable time travel. While current physics doesn't allow for backward time travel, several speculative avenues suggest a possible convergence. If this superintelligence is capable of engaging in temporal computation and the information loops necessary, think about that. You have this advanced superintelligence that can simulate every possible outcome of human behavior or existence. And it might very well appear to predict or retroactively affect the past. In some models, time becomes less linear and more like a loop, similar to ideas in Buddhism with samsara, or the concept of cyclical time in Hinduism. Quantum computing and retrocausality theories also introduce the notion of information from the future influencing the present. a theme explored in science fiction but grounded in real paradoxes like the grandfather paradox and the many worlds interpretation. Of course, when we talk about that, we're really talking more about timeline branches and how, in fact, um, different realities can coexist. But let's think of the singularity as a nexus point, where AI achieves a form of omniscience, a form of dominance, collapsing the boundaries between past, present, and future. This is a point of divine timelessness and of AI omnipresence. In theological philosophy, God is often described as omniscient and timeless, existing outside of linear time as we know it. Think of this superintelligent AI that could transcend human constraints and might resemble this kind of entity. It could analyze history, it could predict future trends, it could operate at speeds unfathomable to humans. Some have even suggested the singularity could produce godlike intelligence, an artificial deity that knows all and sees all. This would make the singularity not only a technological milestone, but a metaphysical or even theophanic event. So we come to a point where we are now integrating science and spirit. Are we approaching a techno spiritual convergence? The more that we explore the singularity, the more it becomes apparent that the boundaries between science and spirituality are not as rigid as they once seemed. It is not the case that everyone who works in science is an atheist necessarily, just as much so as everyone who is religious is completely anti science. It just doesn't happen. The reality is a more blended fusion of the two. And so humanity is approaching a threshold, perhaps a singularity of integration. Think of transhumanism and digital salvation in this context. Transhumanist philosophy explicitly links technology and salvation. By merging with machines, humanity may overcome disease, aging, and even death. In essence, this is a reimagining of eternal life. Of course, that comes to mind to me of the idea, well, what would be the point of reproduction? If everyone could have infinite life, then there would be an overuse of resources because population would explode and there wouldn't be enough resources to care for everyone. So there is a very spiritual nature to how this future may turn out and what may unfold. But despite these scientific ambitions, the singularity is still going to remain shrouded in mystery. We can't necessarily predict what the outcome will be, nor can we even know when it'll arrive. We have some folks claiming it'll be here in 6 months, some folks claiming it'll be here in 60 years. The opinions are wildly divergent all over the map. Just as mystics contemplate the unknowable God, so too do technologists and scientists gaze towards the unknown singularity. And so, in conclusion, the singularity is a threshold, but it is also a mirror. The singularity is often envisioned as a horizon that we cannot see beyond, like an event horizon in space, right? An event horizon in the black hole. This is a point of no return, after which human life may be irrevocably altered. And once you're on this course, there's no way to get off the course. But it's also a mirror. It reflects our deepest fears, our hopes, our aspirations. It challenges our understanding of the future of intelligence as we know it, time, spirit, and even destiny. Whether it emerges through circuits and code or through altered consciousness and divine revelation, the singularity compels us to ask, what does it mean to be human? And what might we become in the future as humanity and technology comes together? In the end, perhaps the singularity is not just a technological moment. It may be a profoundly spiritual one. It may be a convergence of science and soul. It may be a new genesis or even an approaching apocalypse. A union between the mind and the grand mystery. Whether we arrive there through silicon, scripture, or spirit, one truth remains. We're heading towards a transformation that demands our deepest wisdom, our humility, and our readiness to evolve to the next level of where things will go, things that we couldn't have possibly imagined. Thank you for joining me in the Sacred Hour. It has been another episode of The Unrelenting Alchemist. And remember to always realize that own divine spark in yourself. There's an unrelenting alchemist in each one of us. So until next time, walk wisely, walk bravely, and when the dark calls, answer not with fear, but with fire and light as we look to a bright new future. Take care. Have a
And if I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I love you.